Hello, everybody. Welcome again to another edition of BadgerBlitz TV. I'm Jake Kokorowski, senior writer at BadgerBlitz.com, yourrivals.com, destination for all things Wisconsin athletics from the recruiting trail inside Camp Randall Stadium, of course, on the court of the Kohl Center. Once again, another weekly Q&A. We got our good buddy coming in once again. Welcome in Rivals.com recruiting analyst Clint Cosgrove. Clint, man, thanks for making time. Our third week in a row. We're doing this. We're having a lot of fun, and thanks again for making time today.
Love it. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk some ball.
Exactly. And, last week, appreciate everyone's subscribers. I know last week we ran out of time a little bit with the subscriber questions. We have one coming up this week that we'll answer that we had from the previous week from our subscribers. Well, how do you ask questions? Great questions. Subscribe to BadgerBlitz.com. Go inside our Badgers Den every week. I throw up a thread that says, hey, any questions for Clint? And people respond. So we appreciate everyone making some time, asking some very thoughtful questions from the Wisconsin fan base. We'll get to that in just a second. But first off, Clint, I wanted to ask you, my good man, going into this, we're going to go into our kind of my first question for you, and diving into this. Wisconsin has 6 players that are early enrollees that are on campus right now from this 2022 class that signed 15 players overall. In your eyes, which player would be your way too early pick, we'll call this, because obviously we are still so far early. But what's the one 2022 signee who could outplay his ranking for the Badgers down the road?
Yeah, I think there's a few guys that could fit in this conversation. I think there's a few guys that were probably either rated a little low or have incredible ceilings that maybe they're rated at the right place right now, but they're going to outplay that in the future. I think one guy that at Rivals we had rated a little low is probably going to be Isaac Ham out of Sun Prairie. And he's just a physically gifted guy. And when you look at him and his fit, the way he can play in that Wisconsin defense, I see him having a lot of success. He's a homegrown kid. He's going to have a lot of pride in playing in Wisconsin. He's a tough kid. He's going to get after it in the weight room. He's already pretty physically developed. But he's going to look even different once he gets in that weight meal program. He is athletic at his size. He's got great length. He's strong. He's explosive. I think he is a guy that will definitely outplay his ranking. In fact, I would be more surprised if he doesn't outplay his ranking than if he does. Austin Brown is another one out of Illinois. Just an all-around heck of a football player. He's I wouldn't say he's like elite fast. He's not elite, in one certain category. His one elite trait is he's a great football player. And Wisconsin wins with those type of players. I think he's going to be fantastic there. He is another one. There's a few guys, but those are the two that stick out. I do think that Aiden Vaughn out of Michigan is a guy that his rating is more representative of kind of his recruiting process and who he was, because he didn't really have much film. He had been hurt. He was under the radar. He's a guy that has a great physical skill set, and I expect him to have a lot of success. So Isaac Ham would probably be the number one guy that I would say should definitely outplay their rating. And like I said, there's a number of guys. But Austin Brown and what's his name? Aiden as well would be. Yeah.
Looking at that too, we'll go with our question now. And by the way, I'm high on all 3 of those guys, and I think I'm especially high on Vaughn for that matter. And just you've talked about I think the past couple of weeks, or the first time we did it, talking about just his athleticism and just his length. I remember when you contrasted him with Tyler Jancy, who's a 2023 commit for Wisconsin and whatnot. So, but yeah, I like his length too. Getting to our questions though, talking to, let's see. Yeah, I got to add you one more thing up here. There we go. This is the beauty of recording, folks. There we go. I got you live on the screen now. But when it comes to a question, we're going to get into this now, Clint. Great question in terms of, subscriber had asked, can you address some of the running backs that Wisconsin has offered in terms of strengths and weaknesses? We'll start off with that one, and we'll dive into kind of the deeper question he had right after that. But in terms of the running backs that have offered for the 2023 class for Wisconsin, who have who sticks out to you in terms of strengths and areas of potential improvement?
Yeah, I mean, they've offered a number of guys, a lot of highly ranked guys that I don't know if they'll be in at the end, but I don't know their recruiting situations. They have one guy that they've offered that is committed already. The three guys that I would probably focus on that I think, could potentially be end up at Wisconsin and they're in a good place with would be Darius Taylor. He's the same high school as our man Aiden Vaughn, and he is a kid who has really started to blow up. He is a really good runner in between the tackles, but also on the edge. He's got great feet. He's got a burst. He can make you miss, but he can also break tackles. You're not going to bring him down with one arm. He's got great balance. He gets yards after contact. I think that he would be a great take. I think he would be a great get for Wisconsin. So he's one that I look at. Especially there's JT Smith out of North Carolina. Now, I don't cover North Carolina, but I did take a look at him because he is a kid that I do like. He came up in our rankings conversation. He's more your prototypical Wisconsin guy, not the 230-pound back, but he's a 500 or 5'11", 190-pound back. He's thick. He runs underneath his pads. Good burst, strong runner. Can run in between the tackles. He's going to break arm tackles. He's great in contract, great cutting ability. He's more of that Wisconsin style back than maybe some of the other guys that they have offered and have a good chance at. But he's a kid that I like, and he is in North Carolina, so not right in our backyard, but a kid like him with the Wisconsin running back tradition, I think that they would have a great shot with him at the end if he's a guy that they do decide to go on. He's a kid that I really like on film. I think he's a guy that could rise in the rankings over the next year or so. As we do these rankings, this class, this 23 class, I don't even know how many times more they'll be ranked, but they're going to get ranked at least another 4 or 5 times. So, there's a lot that's going to happen between now and the final rankings. The other one would be Dylan Edwards. He's more of a smaller back. Where's Dylan from?
Kansas, Derby, Kansas.
He's from Kansas. Yeah. So he's a smaller back. He's not really what we see right now from Wisconsin, but it seems like they're kind of looking to get one of those guys. He's got that dynamic skill set where he can line up in the slot. He can line up in the backfield. He's great with the ball in his hands. He's great in space. He's a receiving threat as much as he is as a threat to run the ball. And the good thing with him is the guy can fly. He is a home run threat. That's not something that they've necessarily had recently, that speed guy that can just hit the home run at any point. And I think there's a lot that they can do with him in the offense, especially if they're going to open up a little bit more. And, he brings a lot of versatility to the position. He's another guy that I like that they've offered and should probably have a shot at.
Now, part of this question, too, and we appreciate the subscriber for asking this, I'm going to phrase it a way that, in terms of recruiting as a whole, he was talking about the running backs in terms of reasons maybe why Wisconsin may not be necessarily a factor in some of the top backs in the country. And I think it's also a broader question, right, where we're talking about, there's so many classes, and you talk about Jonathan Taylor, who was the number 12 running back in the 2017 class that featured Najee Harris and Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, etc. And then you look at even them landing Jalen Berger, who was the number 5 all-purpose back in that 2020 class, and obviously now he is at Michigan State after being dismissed from the program. But in terms of, maybe I'll rephrase this as all, but what does it take for a program like Wisconsin to recruit some of the top backs in the country, in terms of maybe a recruiting department or that, the incoming NIL situation and whatnot too? What will it take for Wisconsin, program like Wisconsin, to recruit some of those, top backs?
Well, as far as the NIL and that sort of thing, that's hard for me to say because I
Right.
don't know each kid's individual situation or what's important to them or what Wisconsin's working with resource wise on that. If a big time player is into the whole NIL part of things, at the end of the day, I just don't know if Wisconsin's going to have the resources in order to do that. Not saying that they can put it together. I just don't know if it's in play right now. So. I don't even know if it's Wisconsin style to get into a bidding war for a high school player,
Right.
As far as that goes, I don't know how much is going to be done from that perspective. To get the top kids, it's hard at Wisconsin. It always has been. I mean, even when they're getting Ron Dane and players like that, the guys that they have gotten have been a great fit for Wisconsin. They've either been from the Midwest, where Wisconsin is a name brand, or from Wisconsin, where they're a very name brand. But the majority of this high-end running back talent isn't coming within 500 miles of Wisconsin, of Madison. So the hardest thing that you run into is a lot of the kids from the South or the West Coast, whether it be Florida, Texas, Georgia, California, when they're getting offers from these big time schools that are easier for them to get to for unofficial visits, those teams already have a leg up on them. Now, if they grew up a childhood fan of a Wisconsin running back or, a Melvin Gordon or something like that, then maybe you have a chance. But still, you run into, if a kid lives in Miami, it's really easy for them to go down the street to Miami when Wisconsin isn't able to fly them up prior to an official visit. It's a lot harder to get them up to Wisconsin, especially to get them into camp and that sort of thing. So you're fighting a lot of geographical battles. And really in the South and on the West Coast, like Wisconsin, although everybody knows Wisconsin, they know they're a good football program, they're not necessarily the Alabama to those kids, okay? Where those kids, if they can only make one faraway visit, they might be going to USC rather than Wisconsin. And that's just kind of the state of things and the way it goes. Now they've had a lot of success, kind of moving towards the East Coast with running backs and that sort of thing. It's a little easier to get here. They're used to the cold. They're familiar with Wisconsin football, with Wisconsin running backs. So I think, one, it's important to have really good running backs in your backyard, guys who are familiar with the tradition. And then two, it's getting them on campus, getting them to a game. If I'm a top running back in the country and you get me on campus to a football game at Wisconsin, I'm going to have a hard time not considering them in the end. So really, I think that's the big part. You've got to identify them early, get on them before the really big teams do. And that does take a recruiting department who's willing to pound the pavement and do the research and go out on a limb and maybe offer a kid that they don't know much about and then really press to get them on campus so that when the major programs from their area do start offering or recruiting them hard, Wisconsin is still at the top of their mind. So that's going to be key if you want to steal a guy from far away. Otherwise, you've got to get on the big-time running backs that are within your geographical range that you can get up to Wisconsin so they can not only see or not only, hear about the tradition of Wisconsin football, not only hear about the running backs, know about the success, but actually see it for themselves, see, the emphasis they put on running the ball, see what a game day's like, see how they absolutely, when a game's on the line, that they're going to run the ball down the throats. And I think that's what makes a running back excited, knowing that they're going to get the ball. But there's a lot to offer from as far as Wisconsin offers from running back. I mean, it is good of a place as there is as a running back to go and have success. And they got to find a way to sell that and get that to kids on campus. And obviously it helps when you have good running backs in your home state or in the neighboring states as well.
Absolutely. Clint, man, we appreciate your time as always. Looking forward to talking next week. Thanks again, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, always a pleasure. Can't wait.
Folks, that's Clint Cosgrove from Rivals.com, our recruiting analyst, does a lot of great work within the Midwest and beyond, of course. I'm Jay Kokorowski, senior writer at Badger Blitz again. We'll tune in next week. We'll have another Q&A coming up. Be sure to subscribe to BadgerBlitz.com. Get your subscriber questions in. We'd love to have Clint answer them. Y'all have a great week. Stay healthy. Be well. We'll talk to you soon.